Welcome back to another episode of This Chapter Rewritten. If you've been following along with my podcast, then you know that this space is about honesty, healing, and showing up for ourselves, even when it's messy. And today we're going to talk about something that has been showing up in my life for a very long time and in the life of many of the women that I talk to. Today we're talking about living life in survival mode. You know that feeling of just getting through the day, of white knuckling your way through life, of just constantly being in go mode, but never really feeling alive. So in this episode, we're talking about what this really is, why this happens, and why so many of us are stuck in this mode. And most importantly, how to start shifting out of it and back into your full, vibrant self so that you can start enjoying living your life. Because survival mode might help you get through something, but it will not help you heal from it. Before we get into it, let's talk about today's sponsor, Rakuten. If you are not already using Rakuten, you're literally leaving money on the table. When you sign up for Rakuten, you earn cash back on online purchases that you were going to make anyway from stores like Nike, Sephora, Lululemon, even Walmart. I love getting checks in the mail for buying things that I was going to buy anyway. When you sign up using the link in the show notes, you'll earn a bonus $30 and you can start earning cash back today. All right, let's start here. What is survival mode? Survival mode is a psychological and physiological state where your body and your brain are just focused on keeping you alive. It is the result of trauma and chronic stress. This is not just about being busy or overwhelmed. This is your nervous system literally stuck in flight, fight, freeze, or fawn. And this is the thing I don't hear people talk about very often. And that's that you can be stuck in survival mode and still be very high functioning. You can look like you've got it all together. I know because I've done this for years. Career, parenting, relationships, social life, and yet inside, you feel like you're barely hanging on. You're smiling on the outside and you're completely numb on the inside. That's survival mode. So how do you know if you're living life in survival mode? Well, probably if you suspect that you might be living life in survival mode, you are. But here are some signs if you're feeling confused. You're always exhausted, even after a full night's sleep. You forget things easily, or you constantly feel like you're in that foggy mental state. You feel emotionally numb or flat. You snap or cry over small things. You constantly feel behind, rushed, or overwhelmed. You're hyper independent because asking for help just doesn't feel safe. You can't stop scrolling, binging, or distracting. Do any of these sound familiar? And I know some of you are thinking that just sounds like being a busy mom. And I get it. It does. But being a busy mom, you don't just feel like you're always just going through the motions and you're never enjoying anything. When you're struggling to even find joy in special moments with your children, it's not because you don't love them. It's because you're stuck in survival mode. And so many of us are. So if any or all of these signs are resonating with you, that comes to absolutely no surprise. For me personally, I didn't even realize how long I've been living in this mode. I can think back to even being a teenager and thinking, I feel like I'm just going through the motions of life. I'm not actually enjoying any of this. And I know that I have been living in survival mode since I was a child. And now every time somebody says to me, "Oh, you're so strong," I just cringe. Because I've been hearing this my whole life. People have always talked about how strong I am. And I remember thinking, I'm not strong. I'm just doing what I have to do to survive. And that was the mode that I was in all the time. Really wasn't strong. I was just in survival mode because I had to be. So what exactly is it that is causing so many of us to live this way? Well, the sad reality is trauma. Trauma is the exact reason why so many of us are going through the motions of life We're living for years and years in survival mode. So, what kind of trauma can cause this? It can be stress, betrayal, unmet needs as a child, unsafe relationships, not having support, being shamed for having emotions, being told that we are too much, too sensitive, too needy, being forced to be a strong one. Survival mode becomes a learned state. Your nervous system begins to adapt to danger, whether emotional or physical, and says, this is how we survive. So maybe you have become hypervigilant or a people pleaser or emotionally numb. That wasn't a flaw. That was your strategy. That was your system doing its very best to protect you. But at some point, the danger's gone, but the pattern stays. I often hear people say, but nothing traumatic has happened to me, because they're thinking of something really catastrophic, like physical, emotional abuse as a child, losing a parent at a young age. It's not necessarily always big T traumas. And honestly, being emotionally neglected as a child is a big deal. We make light of these little things because somebody else had it worse. So why should you complain? But the reality is that these little things that aren't so little do put us into survival mode. When we have a parent that is even sometimes unpredictable, maybe they have a mental illness, maybe there is substance abuse, you're not sure if it's safe to come out of your room tonight, has mom been drinking, is dad angry? You become hypervigilant. That is for survival. So a lot of the time, these traumas or big stressors are happening in childhood. And that's when we're developing these patterns of survival mode that we carry right through into adulthood. And a lot of people live their entire lives in this mode. So it's then not just a trauma response. This has literally become a lifestyle. We overwork, we overgive, we underrest, we keep choosing partners who drain us, we eat our meals standing up, we never take a deep breath. We don't even feel safe unless we're fixing, pleasing, doing. It just becomes our baseline. And the worst part, we start to believe this is just who we are, that we're just not emotional, that we're just not the type of people to slow down. But we were never meant to live our lives like this. And we have to be real here. Staying in survival mode long term has real consequences, not just burnout, not just health problems, but a loss of self, because we're not meant to just survive. We're meant to feel, we're meant to connect, to create, to love. And when you're stuck in survival mode, all of that is numbed. I hear people talking all the time about there's no such thing as real relationships anymore. And a lot of us are blaming online dating for that and other things. And certainly it all plays a role. But so many of us walking around in survival mode is the biggest contributor. It's like we're all just sort of zoned out. We don't laugh the same. We don't even dream the same. We're struggling to even hear our own intuition. Here's something that will really hit you. Healing doesn't begin until you feel safe enough to heal. And survival mode doesn't feel safe, even though it does feel familiar. So how do we get out of survival mode? I wish it was as simple as a to-do list or some productivity hack. But the truth is it takes a lot of real work. I'll share with you some things that have been helping me, and you can try them. You can experiment with your own different techniques. Not everything that works for me is going to work for you. Some things that I've been trying in order to help heal my nervous system are breath work. So for me personally, I really struggle with meditation. I know that it has worked wonders for so many people. And I definitely think if you successfully meditate, do it. And I started doing breath work and I'd feel such a sense of calm after doing even a 5 or 10 minute breath work session. So give it a try and see if it works for you. There's tons of different breath work videos that you can use for free on YouTube. Getting outside, going on walks. I love to get out on a nature walk. I take my dog with me. This one has been really hard for me taking apologetic rest days. So I would have like entire weekends where I did absolutely nothing, but I still didn't feel rested because in my mind the whole time I was saying, I should be doing this, you're being lazy. And I wasn't really allowing myself to rest, slowing down even during things that we consider mundane tasks. So if I had to get groceries, I would come flying into the parking lot and trying to find the closest parking spot. And I'd be zooming through the aisles, probably cursing people who were there leisurely shopping, tapping my foot while I'm waiting in the checkout. And I get it. I know that we're all really busy and sometimes we're zipping out and grabbing groceries on our lunch break or quickly before school pickup, but really getting yourself into that slower mindset before you leave your house or before you get out of your car, before you walk through the doors, and just reminding yourself that the outcome is going to be the same. You're not going to get through the grocery store any faster if you're doing it in panic mode. And maybe you don't have time to peruse the aisles, and that's okay, but really try to do it keeping your breath and your thoughts slow and try to just enjoy those mundane little tasks that we have to do all the time that we're so typically doing in that stressed out, high anxiety panic mode. I recognize that I'm in survival mode and I recognize when I see the patterns of survival mode. And I will say to myself, I'm in survival mode now, but I'm working on healing so I don't live the rest of my life this way. I give myself permission to feel because I was always stuffing things down. I don't have time to be upset for this. I don't deserve to feel sad. So when I feel something, I let myself feel it, even if it's messy, really, especially when it's messy. I'm working on setting boundaries. This one's really hard for me. I know that it's hard for a lot of people. I feel guilt sometimes when I set a boundary. But the reality is that you cannot heal in the same environment that broke you. I've given myself permission to ask for support. And whether that's therapy or a coach or reaching out to family, healing in isolation isn't healing. So it's okay if you can't do it alone. If you have the means to seek out therapy, it's a great option. You can try coaching. You can seek out community support. If you look, you can likely find some free therapy or counseling. I'm learning to really listen to my body. I have always felt like I'm very low energy. My whole life, everything I do, I'm pushing through fatigue. And I'm really trying to not do that. I'm trying to listen to my body when it's truly telling me you're exhausted, you are done for the day. Even if that means that my days don't look as productive as other people's. This is also part of the journey where it's not going to look perfect from day one. And certainly my hope is that as I'm coming out of survival mode, that I do feel more energetic. I'm also trying to do things that give me energy, that make me feel energized. Like doing these podcasts, I don't do a podcast and then feel like drained, like I'm exhausted now. I can't do anything else for the rest of the day. When I finish up a podcast, I feel like I can go out and conquer the world. So find what gives you that energy, what fuels you. Start doing more of that and less of what drains you. This journey is certainly not always pretty, and it's not something that happens overnight. But the reality is, in order to get to the end, we have to start somewhere. If you're trying to work through your healing in order to stop living the rest of your life in survival mode, and you're struggling, I just want you to know that that's okay. Everyone has setbacks in this process. And like I said, this doesn't happen overnight. This is a long journey, but you will feel better every day. Recognize your small wins. If you find yourself reacting in a healthier way to scenarios that used to cause you to shut down in the past, you need to recognize that and celebrate it because this is you on your way to a better life. I just want you to realize that you're not struggling with this because you're lazy. You're tired. Living in survival mode is exhausting and it's very unrewarding. You're not broken. You're just in survival mode. You're not behind. You're just carrying a lot more than people can even see. You don't need to push harder. Just need to breathe and trust yourself. You need to feel held. You need to know that you're safe, safe to rest, safe to just be. Because your life doesn't begin when the chaos ends. Your life begins when you say, I'm not going to live like this anymore. When you make that decision to heal and you start putting in the work, your life is going to change. You're going to feel the difference. And yes, it's not overnight. But trust me, it's worth the work. When you start healing and you feel yourself coming out of survival mode, you will wonder how you have lived your life that way for so long. Coming out of survival mode isn't just the flip of a switch. It's going to be a series of moments, tiny choices where you start choosing you. It's going to feel scary. It's going to feel foreign, but it's so worth it. Because we're not just here to survive. We're here to live, to feel joy, to feel grounded, to feel safe, to feel whole. And that starts now. If this episode hit home for you, I want you to know you are not alone. If you've been stuck in survival mode, I see you. I've been there. I'm still working through my journey right now. If this resonated with you, send it to someone else that you think needs to hear it. And as always, thank you so much for being here, for listening, and for doing the work. You are so worthy of a life that feels good. Until next time, take care of you.